What's up guys, welcome back to another video. Today we are shooting on the brand new Sony RX100 VII. Now this is a brand new compact camera in the RX100 lineup of Sony cameras, and it's a really interesting little camera. There's a lot going on here. So Sony have been emphasizing how quick it is. They've kind of been saying it's like in the A9 class of kind of speed and autofocus performance and things like that. I can totally see why. Even shooting with it right now, I'm using the real-time eye autofocus while vlogging. So I've got a little square around my eye. I can see it on the screen, which is flipped up facing me. If I cover my eye, it goes back to face tracking. It's straight back on eye tracking though, and it's really, really good. It keeps me in focus while I'm vlogging, and it makes video so quick and easy. Now, autofocus in general is at 0.002 seconds, making it the fastest autofocus in the world, is what Sony has told us. I don't have any way of actually testing that really, but I have no reason not to trust them. It is super, super quick. That all in the size of a pocketable camera, a little compact camera you can take out and about with you when you're going out, is really, really cool. So let's start off by talking about the image quality of this new camera, because I've been out taking photos of various different things. We've got a 20 megapixel stacked CMOS sensor with the 24 to 200mm lens. Let's have a look. So as I mentioned before, it's got a newly developed stacked 20 megapixel CMOS sensor. It's got a DRAM chip and the Bions X processor. I'm not 100% sure that's how you say the Bions X processor, but that's what I'm going with. That's what I've got written down. So apologies if it is different, but ultimately what that gives you is these really nice images, in this really fast system as well. So in particular, I was impressed with the dynamic range. I want to just speak about that for a second, because what you're seeing now are actually JPEGs. I shot in RAW and JPEG, but because the camera's not out yet, we don't always get the ability to process the RAWs, because the RAW codecs are not available on Lightroom and Photoshop and stuff like that. So I had to do it with JPEGs. But even then, the amount I was able to push and pull the highlights and shadows was really incredible. The dynamic range on this camera was much better than I was expecting, and I was really not expecting to be talking about it particularly. Now the lens you got on there is the 24 to 200mm f2.8 to 4.5. Now that's the same as on the Mark VI. That's no problem to me at all, because that's a really versatile lens. 24 is obviously pretty wide for landscapes and stuff like that, and then you can push in for portraits and close-ups. Once you get over sort of 100mm, you're able to get a nice bit of blurred background. You're able to do a bit of separation there, and of course up to 200 you get a bit of compression as well, which is really nice. f2.8 to 4.5 gives you a little bit of room there for low light shooting, so you're letting in a decent amount of light. It's not going to give you crazy bokeh, but it does look nice. I think the look of the images are nice. They're nice and sharp. The colors are really nice as well. I was able to get nice vibrant pictures, which is nice. It's a nice sunny day. But overall, I was very impressed with how good the images looked coming out of this camera. I'm not always super excited about compact cameras, but this one actually, genuinely, I really liked shooting with it. Now that latest Bions X processor is the same as used on the A9 and the A7R IV. It just makes this a very fast system. Very fast for autofocus and just general speed as well. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the autofocus of this camera, because Sony say it's the fastest in the world. It's 0.002 seconds. Now I don't have any way to actually test that, but I've got to say, I can believe it. It's so quick and it's so accurate as well. I'm using that real-time eye autofocus for video right now. So it's picking out my eyes, a little bit like I was in the intro of this video. It is flawless. The tracking as I move my head around, it is absolutely flawless. It's staying on my eye. I'm watching it on the screen above the camera. If for the only reason it loses it, even for a second, it just takes my general face, so face tracking, and it would go to subject tracking if I turned around, and then back to face and eye as soon as it can grab hold of them. Now the autofocus in this is so quick, it's doing 60 AF calculations every second. And that is what enables it to shoot at the speeds that it can shoot. So it can do 20 frames a second shooting in continuous mode. And that's blackout free. That's with autofocus. That's so fast. So I'm going to go test that in a minute. I'm going to take some photos. The only fast moving thing I can find is some birds that I know are going to be flying around relatively fast. So I'm going to go take some photos of those. But it'll also do burst shooting at 90 frames a second. That's where it takes a burst of images, 7 frames with the single press of the shutter, and it does that at 90 frames a second. You can set it to do it 30, 60 or 90, but if you really want to grab 7 stills of a moment and making sure you get that pin perfect frame, 90 frames a second is going to let you do that for sure. So let's go test that out now, and let's talk about the feel of this camera as well. Now, when I went to take photos of these birds, I was using the 20 frames a second blackout-free continuous shooting mode, and that's with AF and AE tracking. So that's really quite fast. Blackout-free is a really nice way to shoot because you're able to, well, if you're tracking something fast-moving, having it not blacking out at all just makes it a lot easier to track your subject. In fact, I would say that the autofocus was going faster than I was. I was having more trouble actually panning and keeping up with this bird than the autofocus was. The autofocus was having no issues at all. But it's really impressive to see that working. It's actually doing up to 60 AF and AE calculations every second, so it's really fast. And to see it actually working like that is really nice. It's a really cool thing. I also shot quite a lot of video with this camera because it's the kind of system that it would be great for vlogging, but it's also the kind of system you take traveling, or you take on holiday, or you take out and about, and maybe you're gonna get a bunch of stills, but you might want to shoot a bunch of video as well. So it's got 4K 30 frames a second, Full HD 1080p at 120 frames a second. That's nothing crazy these days. You'd kind of expect that. It's nice that it's got it. It is 4K full pixel readout, so no pixel binning. Just 1.7 times oversampling. It's also got 4K HDR movie recording, which is really nice. But they're similar to the A7R IV. The big thing for me with video is that it's got this real-time tracking and real-time IAF. It just makes things so easy. If you're vlogging, I cannot state to you how easy it is to do it with the real-time IAF. It just follows your eye. It just follows your eye all the way around the frame. If for any reason your eyes get blocked, like let's say you put your hand over them, it'll just go back to your face. It'll just track your face, and then as soon as your eye is available, it'll go straight back on. It really is genuinely, it doesn't really get old. Not yet, at least, just watching that work. It's also got the 4K active steady shot, which is basically incredibly strong image stabilization. It's about 8 times more effective than previously available. And honestly, while I was walking around vlogging, I could see it working on the back of the screen, and then to see it while I'm editing, it works really well. The image stabilization is great, which is great because you're realistically only ever going to be shooting with this handheld, I would imagine. I can't imagine a situation where we'd be using a gimbal or anything like that. But it's nice. It means if you want to take videos while you're out and about or traveling or anything like that, this is a really nice system to be doing that. You've got S-Log3 to get the better dynamic range, and another huge thing on this camera is a mic input. Especially for vloggers, that's such a big deal. I was actually shooting with an external mic plugged into the camera. It's such a big deal. It makes such a big difference, especially, like I say, if you're vlogging, that's a huge thing. Now, in terms of the design of this camera, it's a compact camera, so it's small. You'd probably expect that from the name. Now, there's no grip on the camera, which might have been nice. Personally, though, I didn't really mind, actually. Shooting with it, it felt quite comfortable to shoot with. I don't feel like I need, the grips always have to be so small on compact cameras that I didn't personally feel like I needed it on there. It felt comfortable to hold, you know, when I was shooting photos and video as well. Now the screen on the back is a tiltable LCD screen. It'll do 90 degrees down if you're shooting over something, or 180 degrees up. So you can kind of vary your angle so you don't have to get right down on the floor, and you can fold it all the way over if you want to take selfies or do some vlogging. It's perfect. You can actually see yourself, which is great. It's also a touch screen, so you can do things like select autofocus points and things like that, which is just nice to be able to use. The actual controls on it are nice and easy to use. They are pretty small, the buttons. I don't know if I can really count that as a criticism though, because it's a small camera, you know? I don't think you can have massive buttons on a small camera. Otherwise, it was just very comfortable to shoot. The dials are nice and accessible. There's kind of an aperture ring around the lens. I had no issues at all. I didn't have any instance where I was uncomfortable shooting with it, or where I wished that it was slightly different. So that's the new Sony RX100 VII. Frankly, a really cool little compact camera. Now, I'm not usually that enthused by compact cameras. I just tend to be the kind of person who I think it's because I get to play with so much cool kit. I tend to want to play with the kind of big cameras and the exciting cameras. But there's a lot in this, and I'm constantly so impressed by the eye autofocus for video. Every time I go to shoot myself like this, oh, it's back on. It looks so good. It's just so handy. So that is very exciting for me. And actually this camera has been really fun to shoot with. I quite like now and then taking out a compact and not having to take a massive bag with me and not having to do all that. And the fact that I can plug a mic into this as well makes it so easy for me to go and shoot and take photos and everything. So I've really very much enjoyed using this camera. It would make a perfect companion camera to something like the A7R IV, the A7 III or something like that. And it's a really, really nice compact camera. And as far as compact cameras go, I think it's one of the nicer ones that I've used. Now, if you have any questions about the camera at all, pop them down in the comments. I'd love to hear what you think about the camera as well, so pop that down there as well. If you like the video, make sure to give it a like. That always helps us out. A thumbs up costs you nothing, but I'll tell you what, I appreciate it. Make sure to subscribe if you're new as well. We have new stuff all the time. We've got tutorials every Tuesday and reviews all the time. So make sure to subscribe. I'll see you in the next video, and as always, thanks for watching.